Welcome to the Snowy Valleys Council meeting, ordinary meeting, Thursday 24th of May 2018. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders, past and present. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence? No. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Yeah, if I could, Mr Mayor, 9.3 is a family member, so it's a non-pecuniary interest, but I'd ask if I could leave the room for that report.
Thank you, Mr Cox. There's no public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting 26th of April. Move the minutes. Do we have a seconder? Anything arising from those minutes?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ursula.
Point M107, page 15, Talbingo Progress Association meeting held on the 7th of March. The resolution was that Talbingo Progress Association meeting held refer matters for staff consideration and report back to today's meeting. I'm just questioning how those matters have not been included in this particular paper for this month. So could we have an answer to that question?
Mr General Manager.
Through the Chair, Mr Christensen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At your discretion, I may give a verbal report on the advice given to Talbingo Progress Association.
Thank you, Mr Christensen.
With regards to the shopping centre handrail that has been arranged for May 2018, with regards to the poor condition of the shopping centre covered seating, we are trying to undertake that in this current financial year, budget permitting. It will rely a little bit on some budget being available from the handrail works. Batlow Link Road, we are currently arranging meetings with Forestry Corporation to discuss a way forward with that matter. Wheelchair access from the bike path to Golf Club, we've submitted a funding application to Roads and Maritime Services for that project, and we are in the process of applying for a grant for a flagpole down at the Cenotaph.
Mr Mayor, have these matters been notified to the Progress Association as well?
Can you do so, Mr Christensen?
Through the Chair, that's actually excerpt from a letter sent to Talbingo Progress Association.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Can I say
Another question?
just on that, those matters that are being rectified that haven't been fixed yet, have they been appropriately barricaded off, or?
Through the Chair, there was some parawebbing placed with regards to the handrail. I don't recall with regards to the seating. I'd have to take that on notice.
Okay. Anything further from those minutes? Got a move in a second, but didn't put the motion. All in favour of accepting those minutes? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the council meeting held Thursday the 10th of May, extraordinary meeting.
3 minutes.
Councillor Whistleton, Councillor Ham. Anything arising from those? Okay. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. 9.1 Rural Australians for Refugees Conference, Wodonga, 6th to the 8th of April. Councillor Hand.
I'd like to move that when we receive the information that Cora and I got from the conference, and thank you for allowing us to go, and that we become a welcome council for refugees, and that at a future time the schedule a council workshop to discuss refugee resettlement to the council area. And if I may, I might just read a little bit of what it means to become a refugee welcome zone.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
A refugee welcome zone is a local government area which has made a commitment in spirit to welcoming refugees into the community, upholding the human rights of refugees, demonstrating compassion for refugees, and enhancing cultural and religious diversity within the community. And I believe that's something that Snowy Valleys Council should hold their head up high and endorse.
So you're moving the recommendation with that slight change. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Smith, thank you. Anything further you'd like to add, Councillor Ham or Councillor Smith, from this conference?
Not at this stage.
Councillor Ham?
No, I do note that when you become a welcome to refugee zone, that it would be a good idea to get someone from the Refugee Council of Australia to attend a ceremony and present a certificate of appreciation, so that there should be some media coverage about that, so everyone within the council area is aware of what we've done.
Something we can look forward to.
Excellent.
Thank you. So we've got a move and a seconded. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried.
Can I just raise something in relation to
Yes.
just in relation to that particular resettling, and given the fact that we had an Australia Day, an Australia citizenship ceremony in the last council extraordinary meeting, I think at some point we probably need to discuss how we move forward with those presentations and symbolic arrangements, because I don't know how. I do know how some of the councils felt, because we had a conversation about it, but we were just of the opinion that it was a bit flat, and that we could be doing a little bit more to recognise those new Australians, and that perhaps something a little bit more symbolic, like a barbecue or something where the council actually engages with the new citizens rather than the way we have currently been doing it. So perhaps we need to arrange a budget. And,
I think it'd be something we could look at a workshop in the future, but I certainly agree.
Yeah.
Happy to Councillor Cross?
Mr Mayor, in the previous Tumut Shire, we did actually have welcome packs to give to new families. I don't know if that still happens, but that would be something that would be very useful for them to know where to go to get information.
I think given that these people have lived in our community for the last few years, they probably didn't need that so much, but certainly I think the environment was a bit sterile.
Yeah.
Over it. Workshop.
Yes.
9.2. New South Wales.
Mr Mayor, I
Library.
raise the issue as council, we can't direct the General Manager to actually send someone of staff on a conference or anything, so I think this needs to be amended.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor,
Yes.
Mr Mayor, I would like to suggest that Christine Toomey does accompany me to the conference. She is a very, very valuable and highly esteemed librarian, and it would be valuable to have her input as well.
Through the chair, I'll consider that as a staff request. Mr Cox will present that up for consideration.
So we've amended the recommendation.
We need to change it to be.
It's amended.
Oh, sorry.
Are you moving that way, Councillor Risserman?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Cross, you're seconding that? Thank you. Any further? Everyone all in favour? Good, thank you. Carried. Looks like a very good conference. Not too far away either, I see. 9.3. Canberra Region Joint Organisation. The recommendation there.
I'll move that and second the recommendation that we move into committee to discuss it.
Okay.
Second.
So, you second one at a time. Let's go. We're moving this recommendation, and you're seconding it.
Thank you.
All in favour? Carried. Now you're moving it.
That we're moving the committee to.
Yeah. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Wright. Thank you very much. We're right to go. All in favour of that? Moving into committee? Yes. Good. We're in committee. Councillor Barter.
Well, I should hand over to the Mayor really to start off proceedings, and I'll just interject. How's that sound?
Sounds like a hospital pass. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just before we do go on, I'd just like to mention halfway down, there's a typo there in Troy Grant's name, so that needs to be amended. This was most worthwhile and probably gives us a very good insight into how useful the joint organisations can be for us as a council. This gave us the opportunity to go to Parliament House in Sydney, organised by the Executive Officer for Canberra Region Joint Organisation, and we met the Premier, we met the Deputy Premier, we had time with the Health Minister, and there's a great list of other members of Parliament and other important people that we actually had opportunities to meet with, and prosecute our case for different things such as the rail trail from Tumbarumba to Rosewood, which was first on our list, a Centre of Excellence for Business and Education, bring forward the hospital starting date and co-locating the ambulance station. They were some of the main topics we spoke about. We spoke about the need to grow our population, to grow our towns, and the way that I feel that we can do that is to provide quality educational resources and infrastructure, quality health infrastructure and services, and quality infrastructure for recreation. And if we can do that, I'm sure more people will come. So they're the sorts of things we spoke about, and it was really worthwhile. I think we were listened to, and we came away with a very positive feel about it, very positive vibe about it. I'll pass over to you. Didn't interject once.
I think exactly what James has said. It was a really good insight for me, and I hope that at some point we all get the opportunity to go to one of these JR meetings. They're very professional. They're obviously very well organised, and the debate around the halls of Parliament House was that they're a very well respected and very well thought of group that is basically leading the pack when it comes to the joint organisations, and I think that leadership is going to put us in in a very good position in the years ahead with regard to developing our infrastructure and service levels here in particular, and the opportunities that will be available from that, whether it be from the things that were sort of remotely spoke about, such as Badgerys Creek and the flow-on effects from the airport, with businesses moving from that precinct into regional areas. There was a lot of things that we probably hadn't thought of that are on our radar as a result of these meetings. And to that end, Gabrielle Cusack probably needs a special note for organising a lot of those meetings with the politicians for us. She's obviously very well respected and has a great history in infrastructure. I think she was on the infrastructure board for the federal government. So she obviously understands communities like ours. I think she grew up in Arden or somewhere around there. So it's good that we've got like-minded people battling for us in the state and federal sphere. They were very productive meetings. I've got to say that John Barilaro and Bronnie Taylor, both members of Parliament up there, the Deputy Premier and but they are phenomenal with their outlook and their drive and their passion for communities and for taking us ahead. And I think we're in good hands there, and they're very passionate about our area, and they're very passionate about regional Australia in general. So I think that's all very positive. we worked well together. Actually, that was really good. Having the three of us there, worked really well. It allowed us to really have really good dialogue and offer good advice about things that came up, and we were able to workshop issues that with politicians, and it's a really good thing.
And to that end, we've sent out, invited some of these people to come and visit us. So those letters have gone out. We made the verbal offer when we were down there, and we've since sent letters off inviting some of the people we spoke to come down and share with us our successes and our vision.
It wasn't just politicians; it was the Assistant Commissioner for Police. The range of people at these meetings was quite phenomenal, really, and having access to them and to be able to speak about our local concerns and have their genuine interest was really refreshing.
Mr. General Manager?
Look, I think the meetings were very beneficial. Certainly we spoke to the state about how much as a council we're experiencing the business of the New South Wales local government is out to help local government, and that is very obvious in the interactions we're having every day from the senior staff in the New South Wales government. And the Deputy Premier especially was pleased to hear that. He said that was one of his objectives, to make sure that local government is engaged and assisted to move forward. And as we've indicated before, it's a position of opportunity at the moment, and there's some significant funding and significant programs coming up, and I think the meeting helped us take advantage of that for our community.
Even the Country University Centre with Duncan Taylor, the opportunities and the things that will deliver for people regionally is fantastic. It's a success story in Coomera, it's a success story elsewhere, and it can be a success story in some component here, hopefully.
If we can get one. And that's what we're trying for.
And the other thing is too that the Minister also gave us an undertaking that we would become part of the JO for Canberra. She gave us a verbal undertaking that would happen. So, yeah, I think that's been followed up with correspondence.
Yes. Yep. So, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, congratulations. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful leadership that we've got in becoming part of the joint organisation of Canberra. But I'm just wondering, I'm hoping the words Brindabella Road actually passed one of your lips when we were actually having those conversations.
They did, Councillor Isman. That come up quite regularly, actually.
And in fact, Councillor Isman, we had the Cross-Border Commissioner for the ACT there, and he was at the dinner the night prior. And I think he had quite extensive discussion with each one of us about that. So
well done,
it's very clear what our interest is in that area.
Well, members of the ACT government actually sit on this panel, and the Transport and Infrastructure, or Transport Minister's senior advisor agreed that he would re-look at the Brindabella Road. He gave that guarantee in one of the meetings that he would do that, and he was open for us to have a meeting with the ACT government, ourselves, and the Transport Minister.
Well done.
On a different tack, when I was at the Smart Communities Conference, I actually met Duncan Taylor, who is in charge of the Country University Centre, and also expressed our desire, our need, our want to have one. So, and he was very responsive to that. So
That's great.
I'm very hopeful we can get that.
As our work.
Yeah.
Just a simple question. I'm talking to them about the Brindabella Road. What about the aerial Brindabella Road? The extension of our airport to accommodate larger passenger planes into Tumut, because I think that's where the growth will come. Canberra's got this international airport. International visitors are going in there regularly. And if we can have a bigger plane coming out of Tumut and kick this place along. We used to have an air service between Canberra and Wagga, which used to stop off and pick people up. And that was only small capacity, but it's got tremendous potential, particularly if Wagga goes in with Canberra.
Certainly still on the radar, yes. Ross. Any further comments? Councillor Smith?
Mr Mayor, my question in relating to the time frame, given that we are currently associate members of the Canberra Region JO, when are we expecting to develop that further and become full members?
In the future. Hopefully sooner than later, but it'll be a bit of a process, I think.
So in the meantime, we're part of REROC?
We remain a member of REROC,
Right.
and we are an associate member of the Canberra JO. And so we're getting benefits from both sides.
Minister Upton did give the Mayor and myself a positive response into us becoming part of the Canberra JO.
So it's just the legislative details that we're going into. Councillor Cross?
Mr. Mayor, what will be the next step following on from your meeting? What do we need to do?
I've written letters.
Yep.
To them. Yeah. And requesting that.
Through the chair, as staff, will follow those letters up with the advisors, and we have started to receive responses already. The various departments have received that. It'll be coordinated through the Office of Local Government, and then it'll go out to the various departments to get those responses back to us with the Minister's approval.
I'm encouraged by how quickly things are happening at the moment. Yeah. Like it took a long time to get the rail trail gazetted, but that's happened now. But other things that we went down and we asked for, they're coming through already, so that's really encouraging, given that some things in local government can sometimes take quite a while.
I guess an election in the wings, does that have any bearing on
Really?
speeding things up?
Possibly. Would someone like to...
Move out of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Listener. Councillor Hand. All in favour? Where were we up to? We had... Oh yes, we're moving the second. We've got to vote on the report. You're voting yes, Councillor? Everybody else like to vote yes? We'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you.
Is it possible, do we need to move a motion, Mr Mayor? I just think that, Council should perhaps resolve to write to Gabrielle Cusack for her...
Thank you for her input. Yep.
We can do that as an operational.
Yeah.
So I've already sent an email, but an official letter from council signed by the mayor would be very good.
Thank you. Okay, 9.4. Independent member. Thank you. Mr Cox. Recommendations that council consider the report and approve the appointment of Ian Chaffey to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee till March 2021.
Just a question, please, Mr Mayor, if I may, before we go and pass it. Is it historically the case where we only have a few people applying for these positions? I mean, one, doesn't seem a lot of people to actually be judging whether we should have this person on the committee or not. So would there be traditionally more people?
It's certainly a very, very important committee. It's disappointing that it's not sought after membership as much as it could be. But I'm sure Mr Chaffey will fit the bill very well. As I said, it'd be good to get more.
Historically, have we normally had more?
I'm not certain.
All right, so thank you.
That's that question.
Certainly last time there was only one applicant.
Thank you.
But as I said, I think Ian Chaffey brings a suite of skills to the table, and we can only benefit from having them in there. Recommendation? Councillor Pritchard? Councillor Wright? Next time. Councillor Pritchard, would you like to...
Just that we know what we're getting. And he's a very experienced and well-regarded member of the community. I think it'd be a great asset to our organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Closes debate. All in favour? Carried. Thanks, John. Governance and financial reports. The Financial Reports Committee Radio. Recommendation there to renew the variation released from Montreal Theatre for the 96.3 radio station. Both recommendations. Councillor Larder, seconder. Councillor Smith. Councillor Larder, would you like to speak?
No, obviously we have a very good relationship with Sounds of the Mountains, and they do a lot of community work on our behalf, whether it be the transmission of emergency responses in times of bushfire or flood, or simply telling our story at the end of a council meeting.
Council meeting, yeah. Stay tuned.
But Dave Eisenhower and the team down there do a wonderful job, and the fact that this is now filtering through to Tumbarumba is a wonderful thing as well, and it's a pleasure to be able to ratify their existence in our building.
Anyone like to speak against? Anyone else like to speak? Yes. Close the debate, have you? Put the motion, all in favour? Okay. Now, committee membership of the Sale Yards Committee. Councillor Benjamin, you moving that way?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Cross. Councillor Benjamin, anything to say? No. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. And thanks to those people who serve on those committees. I know they do a great job as volunteers, and they have a lot of interest, especially I've sat in on the Sale Yards Committee for a long time, and I know they're very dedicated people on that committee. Membership of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee. Recommendation. Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Larder. Councillor Pritchard.
Just that these people are well known and well experienced and be great members. We've had a meeting since then, and we elected Susan Bolger to be chairperson of the meeting. And so we're going to meet every second month rather than 3 months. The people there were very positive. The only thing is that we'd like to meet outside the council building, perhaps down at the racecourse coffee shop, so we can make it more available to the local people to come and go as they so wish.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you can do that. I'll put the motion, all in favour? Carried.
Mr Mayor, I just have one question, please. On page 36, Susan Bolger mentions her reason for membership, and that she's now chair. We need 2 Aboriginal liaison committees, as we have 2 neighbouring tribes. Is her reason for coming on?
I noticed that.
We talked about that, and in fact at the meeting it was still left up in the air a little bit, but there's not a strong presence in Tumbarumba, and I thought at the moment that's probably wise to keep it here. Mary Greenholt lives at Rosewood, and she was supportive of that, so at the present moment it's left open obviously, but the Kiwi Cottage and the main, and the other thing is that a number of these people come from Brungle, and Tunis more or less in the centre of the world, and that's open for negotiation obviously. I asked them about the inmate Manus jail too, which the Aboriginal people are unfortunately overrepresented there. And Sue said that although a lot of those kids come from other tribes out of our district, they have some, because they're on their land, they have some responsibility, so we're going to try and encourage talking to those people. So it's still very early days, but I'm pretty happy with the positive way that they approached the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So it remains open for others to join.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course it's.
So if we...
They've kept the quorum to, whether it's official or not, I'm not sure, but we've kept the quorum quite small because we're never quite sure how many are going to get along.
So you've got a quorum,
Yeah.
you've got a number for a quorum
Yes.
rather than half plus one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
I
very
don't know
wise.
if we need a motion to that to enable that, but we can wait until the next couple of minutes so that may come before us. But it's not bad
In terms of reference.
Yes, so my question also is, so if we are able to support the current Aboriginal Liaison Committee, would we have an appetite to do so for another one if there was one such set up in Tumbarumba?
I'll leave that up to this committee, see what the minutes have to say. I think there's been a subtle change in that. When I set up the Aboriginal Liaison Committee in the first place, it was council trying to help the Aboriginal people. It's changed around now that they want to help themselves, and we're coming in. I think that we're coming in more as a subsidiary to help coordinate it. But it's their meeting.
Absolutely.
Let them call the shots.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
Mr Mayor.
Can I just ask that some consideration be given with regard to the holding of these meetings, that given that these people are travelling distances and they're quite often coming after work or whatever the case may be, that we have some provision in the budget to make sure that, you know, we at least provide a morning tea or afternoon tea, or there's a can of soft drink in the council's fridge, or whatever.
Through the chair, we have a budget to manage all of our committees, so yep, certainly relevant.
Thank you. Right, I'm on page 38. Statement of investments. Councillor Isselman. Thank you. Councillor Wright. Councillor Isselman.
Fine, thank you also for the recommendation.
Anybody like to speak to the...
I'd just like it noted that in the pie graph that the A means AMP and the percentage isn't there, but just for anyone who's looking at that.
AMP? Yes, got it.
Is there a reason why we're not recognising AMP?
There may be a reason.
General Manager.
Through the chair, if I may just note on page 40, which is 43 on the electronic agendas, the list of significant contracts there essentially equates to why there's less money invested overall. So we will continue to report that on a regular basis so you understand the reasons why the investments has gone down.
Councillor Wright.
What does NDRRA mean?
Through the chair, NDRRA stands for the Natural Disaster Relief and Recovery Arrangements. And that's funding from where we have a disaster event. There's funding that comes into us to do restoration works. We then contract out those restoration works, and this is money that's then been expended, which is offset by the funding we've received.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Management reports 10.1 donation request. Councillor Lara. Can we, I spoke to the police about this earlier. I was under the impression that they needed far more than $510. I was under the impression they needed something like $7,000 to run this program. Now, this is just for the rental, which is just a 356, yes? Yep. So, is there any way we can highlight the fact that they may need some more?
Through the chair, we can either follow that up as a matter of operations, or if you would like to add to the resolution for staff to follow up if they need any further assistance, and move in the second is acceptable for that.
Further assistance? Because I think this is one of our key target areas.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, because as I mentioned before, I met with the PCYC, from Wonka Down Boys Club with the Aboriginal kids, and they said that they want more support. I think the figure might about the figure of $7,000 for the
And could we maybe just add in there, and what opportunities would
It's your,
that we could offer?
we moved it.
offset, ways we could offset that if we do. So there might be a grant or something that's available that we could use, or
Given the short time frame, I'm not sure that we'll be able to apply for a grant for it. Is that?
yeah, just if there was any offsets, but if there's not, it doesn't matter.
If we just have seek funds,
Yep.
something along those lines.
Through the chair, we've got there require any further assistance, so that can encompass the whole matter. Yep.
So, move and second, both happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone want to speak against? Councillor Larder, do you want to close the debate on
No, it's just I think it's a very worthwhile program. I think they've even asked me to talk at it.
that? Oh, you've got a conflict of interest in
Probably.
it?
Probably not.
Probably not. That's great. Okay, well, thank you. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried.
They're not paying me to speak.
Oh, that's good. Swimming pools consultation levels of service. We've got quite a large report there, and I thank Mr. Christensen for compiling this.
Can we move to make a change to the recommendation? Or do we have to pass it first?
Do you want to move the recommendations, or would you like to go straight into?
I just like to change number 2.
No, number 2, yes.
And
So you're moving a change to number 2.
yes,
Thank you, Councillor Ismail.
if I could, and remove it. Would there be no fees for swimming pools over the season? Is that how? That's a
I'll work
simple-
up some words.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I can't hear you.
Sorry. So, remove it as it is there, and that advertise there'll be no fees and charges for swimming pools for 2018-19,
With the exception of swipe cards.
with the exception of swipe cards.
Okay.
Through the chair, please.
And use
So we need a seconder before we can move. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard.
I'll work up some words for that.
I
So,
might move that we move into committee to discuss it while you work out some wording.
we might just put the first motion. No, I can't put the first motion, can I?
No, through the chair, Councillor Isselman is moving a different resolution to what was the recommendation in the minutes. So there's no amendment, it's just a straight move up front. If you were to go into committee, I will work out the wording to bring that, and you can finalise that after.
Let's go into committee. Councillor Larder,
Second.
Councillor Cross.
Lord Ross.
Got ahead of you in the auction. All in favour? Carried. Okay, we're in committee. Who's first? Councillor Isselman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just take note of the attendance records for the year that has passed at all the pools, and note that there has been a significant increase in the number of people who have attended. I also note that the people who have answered the survey are not the children who have attended the pools in that time, so we're not necessarily capturing the right information. I think it's been a very, very worthwhile program to have free pool access across the whole of the Shire. A number of shires have approached us to ask how we have achieved it and why we did it and what was the logic behind how we moved that particular direction. And it's getting a lot of traction with a lot of other councils. I think it's a very worthwhile community statement. It meets the social needs of our children across our community, and I think we should stay with it.
And it meets some of the Premier's priorities as well.
It certainly does.
Good. I think you've said nearly everything there. Councillor Pritchard.
Just, everyone I've spoken to throughout the community, old and young and fit and firm, they're all in favour of it. There's not one negative, and I think it's a great move ahead for social cohesion. The thing is that it prevents alienation of the young people. It's the first step in trying to bring the young people together. It's great for the families, and I grew up at Manly, I guess, in Sydney, where everything was free.
Yep.
And in Tumut here in the old days, it was free in the river, but that river has been taken away from them with snowy hydro irrigation, making it unswimmable in the summer. So I think this is one of the few great things we've done.
Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, I think it should be noted that in a number of cases people have reported attracting, shall we say, less desirable people, not necessarily from our own area, to the pools that have made it difficult for some of the families and children at the pool and their behaviour not being appropriate. Perhaps that matter needs addressing in some separate way.
And I think the police have been involved, Mr Christensen, is that correct, in some...
Through the Chair, there has been some notices given to some patrons banning them from utilising the pool, abusive and borderline threatening behaviour. Police have requested copies of those and we have brought them on. Those banning notices will be used in future if they attempt to enter the premises. The police will be called and the police will escort them off the premises.
And have police ever been called before?
Yes, they have. Not very frequently though, maybe once every few years.
Just a comment about that.
Councillor Pritchard.
People who know who, before we did this, we had the Junction Bridge swimming or to exercise their dogs, and it was often unpleasant out there because there's a lot of vandalism and bad language and all sorts of nasty things going on. But since this was brought in, that's not happening out at the Junction Bridge. Obviously those kids are coming into town now and of course the troubles around the swimming pool, but they're under the supervision and they're being controlled. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
The other thing about it is quite a lot of tourists. You know, people from out of town. There's people from Wagga driving up to get free pools. Not sure how that works.
Councillor Lardock.
Yeah, I just endorse everything that everyone said. I think Councillor Pritchard's right. The fact that you can be on the coast, you know, in Manly or Cronulla in such well-to-do as they are now areas and swim for free in the ocean, you know, why shouldn't our kids have that? Right, I think it's worked out to be a very successful social and physical program for the children. I've looked at it from the point of view, if you're going to charge for the pools, then you need to charge for the library, essentially, because we only recover less than 10% of the cost of running the library, and in my understanding that's all been through grants, any of that cost recovery. So as libraries should be free to the community, so should the pool. I think it has been a success. I do agree that we probably need to look at the long-term viability of how we go about maintaining safety at the pool, and things like lockers and some of the infrastructure items might make some difference with regard to theft and the petty things that we've had happen. But just in regard to even those children that have been locked out, you know, I'd like to think that if those children bring it upon themselves to write to council and apologise for their behaviour, that, you know, operationally the staff would review that. I'd encourage the staff to give the kids another opportunity if they realise that they've made a mistake. You know, we're not so rigid that we won't review it. The door's always open, but, you know, we've got to have a zero tolerance policy, because, you know, we can't have young children down there subjected to poor language and bad behaviour, and mothers putting up to that. It's not acceptable. So.
Councillor Cross.
Mr Mayor, just a thought that Councillor Pritchard, you prompted that beaches, yeah, I grew up on the beach as well, and it was free. Is this an equity issue that we need to bring up with state government, about that rural people are disadvantaged and that pools are a huge cost, and that maybe there is some way of making, like the libraries, which are enshrined in a state law of 1839, advocating that state governments look at the same sort of thing? Is that out of the question?
No, I don't. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Something for a workshop.
Probably.
Interestingly, parking is generally not free at these beaches.
No.
No.
It was when they grew up.
Mr. Christensen.
We used to walk too.
And traffic jams are freedom.
If I may, through the chair, with regards to dot point 3, the intent of the recommendation put forward was to offset the cost of the capital works by estimated income.
Yep.
It will need to be a consideration of the June IPNR budget, operational budget to council, that if council does want to continue with dot point 3, you'll need to consider in the money required for the first year of capital works that are required.
I think we've up there in red it says now as funds are available. So as they come available, we'll consider those.
Through the chair, I think probably best that we just note that as a submission from internal for the first year of those requests, and we'll aim to try and get funding offset for those.
So we've made all those changes now. Is there anything further before we move out of committees? Yeah.
So just through the chair, the changes we've made is to the no fees for entry into swimming pools with the exception of the swipe card, and the staff consider an adjustment to the draft budget to offset the costs. So that's indicating that in the current draft budget we have that listed as income, so we're going to need to find an adjustment there to cover that cost. And as the Mayor has just indicated, as funds are available for, so you will need the approval of the mover and the seconder after we move out of committee for that.
Move out of committee, please.
Councillor Usman? Councillor Smith? All in favour? Okay, so with those changes,
I'm happy with those changes.
you're happy with those changes? Councillor Pritchard?
Yeah.
Yep. Any further discussion? Councillor Usman, would you like to close?
Just close the debate and saying that I think this is a really worthwhile step for us to take as a council in relation to our ratepayers who pay extraordinarily low rates, and a lot of people paying rates are not getting to use the facilities that they provide, one of which is a swimming pool. So I think this is a really positive move for ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor Usman. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried. It's unanimous. Thank you very much for that. Moving on. Management reports 10.3 draft Tumut Region Visitor Centre Memorandum of Understanding. Councillor Pritchard, Councillor Ham. Councillor Pritchard.
I think this is a very good outcome that the council works together with the Tumut Region Visitor Centre. I worked down there as a volunteer for some years, and I've been very impressed with how efficient they are and how well informed they are. And it's even more important now because in the bigger shire, we've got Cancoban in the bigger shire, and Cancoban also has a National Parks Visitor Centre down there, and already our two visitor centres are working together, and that can be strengthened. And by having visitors coming in from both ends, they can help direct or encourage people to go visiting all the way along. So it'll strengthen our whole Snowy Valleys Council visiting capacity.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor White.
Can I just ask whether the arrangements or around this have been strengthened to allow for bookings and things like that for accommodation, or was it still an ad hoc arrangement where?
Through the chair, Mr. Cox would like to reply to that.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, look, in the discussions that I've had with the national parks, they're open to all type of scenarios. It's been an arrangement that I don't think councils has taken full options with prior. So look, they're more than happy to look at that type of arrangement or any arrangement as part of this MOU.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Councillor Ham.
Councillor Pritchard and I went to a tourism conference, and at that stage we did talk to Wendy Hill from National Parks and Wildlife Service and about the VIX, and we learned a lot through that, and just their positivity towards growing this was very evident. So it's, yeah, have to support it totally.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I think this is a fabulous partnership that we really need to foster and encourage, because we have such a common interest in maintaining our national parks and our parks with the beautiful environment that we have. So I would be very passionate about keeping this partnership.
I was just going to ask, I'm not so worried about the partnership, it's more the, has there been any study done on the success rate of its location, and whether it is a viable location with regard to visitation? You know, like there doesn't seem to be a great deal in the way of bus parking. You know, you sort of come into town from Go-Cup Road and you naturally turn left or go straight ahead. Unlike in other towns where you sort of come in and you sort of drive past the visitor centre, you don't necessarily do that here. I'm just wondering whether, you know, I don't doubt that the relationship's wonderful down there and that the people that they do capture have a good experience, but are we maximising the potential in its existing setting?
I notice buses there quite regularly, mostly outside the broom factory. You know, whether they're going across as well, I assume they are as well. But I think the point arises, where else is there anywhere better? And at the moment, I can't see anywhere better. So that's why we're still there, I guess.
And I've been to other places and I've had to actually hunt for the Tourist Information Centre. It hasn't been as visible as ours. So.
Just before we close the debate, probably wandered around. Mr Cox, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to reinforce that issue had been discussed with National Parks, and years ago there was a turn right off Go-Cup Road, but it was prohibited, so it was taken away. But we are negotiating in relation to improving signage, and also the front of the building. There's a number of small hedges and stuff with somewhat or you disguise the building from the front, so that as part of this arrangement we've negotiated with the landlord to take that out, to make the building more visible and to improve signage, which would alleviate that. But it is an issue with that intersection on Go-Cup Road and being able to turn right there.
So just given the safety aspects of that intersection, because it is a disaster, is it possible that we could investigate arrangements of using the back and developing that area if we own it in conjunction with the landholders?
It'd be something we could explore, but it would be with the RMS, with the Go-Cup Road and the Adelong Road, and it is an RMS road in that intersection, and yeah, so it's something we could look into.
And John Holland as well.
With the railway precinct there.
It goes right up to there. Okay. Councillor Wilson.
Just one final point, please, if I may, Mr. This memorandum of understanding makes no direct reference to the publication of promotional material for Snowy Valleys Council. In fact, it's quite general and very broad in respect to that. So I think it's relevant to point out that we're not likely to get a whole lot of pamphlets about Snowy Valleys Council and the promotion of this area. We may get promotional material about national parks, but it doesn't appear to be that this particular memorandum of understanding is giving us pamphlets to hand out at the tourist centre. So we need to be careful that we expect those people to do it, and we're not going to do it, and therefore it may not be done.
Understood. Councillor Pritchard, would you like to close the debate? You can get the last say.
Well, I think of the destination management plan. I've put a submission in the last few days about redoing the mapping of the whole area, like extending, making a circular map which you could enter anywhere with a loop up towards Tumbarumba and surrounds and back again and deviations, and the whole mapping system needs to be redone. I don't see the. Yeah, well, that's all I can say at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Put the motion. All in favour? Okay. 10.4, execution of grant agreement for multi-service outlet Tumbarumba. Councillor Larder. Councillor Wright. Councillor Larder.
Self-explanatory, I think. As long
Anybody
as
else?
we've got a seal.
Anyone else like this? No? Councillor
Go for it.
Risserman.
I just have the question of the risk management in relation to these figures, and it does say minimum there, but have we any past history of the risk that might have been involved in some of these estimates? I believe they might be estimates or grant fundings that are here on this agreement.
Good through the chair. The risk is if you don't expend it, all the money, you have to give the money back. So there's never been any risk in relation to that, and the money's always expended.
Never overspent?
Well, this subsidises the operations, so but the that's reported back to council that this money's always spent.
Okay. Anyone further? Councillor Smith?
I have a question regarding staffing of that centre. There appears to be no staff available for some of the services that are housed there from time to time. Is there any reports available on that?
Through the chair, I think the service isn't a full service like you'd go into a state government department and have various planners or whatever available to meet with. The service is to facilitate the local community being able to lodge forms, get information, get those put through to that service centre. So it's not a full operation like a state government department might be that you visit in a larger centre.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, the centre is always manned by council staff, so there is a person there. And just to follow on from the general manager's comments, a lot of the services are sort of external to the office type environment that they are there, so it's fully staffed.
Thank you.
If I could just support Cole's statement, then is sometimes you go in there and you certainly don't know there's anyone there, and you're certainly not made to feel welcome in any way. So might be just some feedback.
Take that on notice.
Take that. Councillor Risserman.
So, Mr Mayor, if I might, I'm wondering, this is an excellent service for Tumbarumba. Is there any way that this particular service could in the future be looked at being part of some of the other smaller communities of our shire?
Through the chair, we have met with Service New South Wales recently, the Mayor and myself, and we didn't have that discussion about all the areas within the region, but we did have it about certain areas within the region. So we can continue to have that conversation there. They are coming back to talk to us about some of those options, so we'll raise that issue at that time.
Certainly Service New South Wales will bring us a lot more facilities.
Yes, thank you.
Just on that, through the chair, some of the services are offered by private services in some of the other areas. So this is council offering that service. So services are available, but they're not serviced by council.
Okay. We done? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Alcohol-free zones.
Can I just ask that question? Is it a statutory requirement that 4 years?
Through the chair, that's the maximum. You can have a alcohol-free zone is 4 years.
So you're moving? Thanks. Now you can ask a question. No,
You need a second.
need a second. Councillor Wright. Now you can ask a question.
So it's statutory, is it? So, because it seems odd to me if it's, if you don't want them there now, why would you want them there in 5 years' time?
It's got to be reviewed every 4 years. That's the maximum under the Local Government Act. So it's statutory.
And the penalties for this, are they different under the Local Government Act compared to the police, or they operate under the same legislation?
It's under the same legislation, so obviously the police and council rangers can use it, but ultimately it's used by the police generally.
Councillor Ham.
Can we go into committee to discuss this one?
Certainly, you're moving that way. I'll second it. Thank you, Councillor Lara. Councillor Ham.
I certainly support an alcohol-free zone. Having the facade outside the Union Hotel excluded, I think al fresco is wonderful. I think sitting out there, but I don't know if we want people outside the front at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know. Should there be a time limit on when that is?
Yeah, if I could through the chair, there's a development application that the use of the footpath is time restricted. So, and being al fresco dining, it's only during the service of meals. So from 12 till 2:30 and from 6 o'clock till 9:30. So after that time, all their tables and chairs are packed up.
There's no alcohol allowed out there.
Yes, it raises the question as to what happens outside other hotels in other townships, because there are tables and chairs outside other hotels where obviously they'd not have to go through this process, and I'm just wondering where we stand as the council.
No, I think there are alcohol-free zones, but some of them have got they've got permits, I think.
Yeah, if I could through the chair. The former Tumut Room, they had lease arrangements over there, al fresco dining, so there's a number of hotels that have got that. I don't know what the status is of the hotel in Batlow, but that's something that could be looked at.
So this is only for al fresco dining, not for sitting outside drinking?
Yeah, but the al fresco dining, where they can consume alcohol with the service of a meal, is why that exclusion applies in this case.
Yeah. Has there been issues? Like what's the background behind this?
Not in relation to the premises of the Union Hotel. The Tumut Hotel back in 2013 applied for the same exemptions, and at the time there were some antisocial type issues where the police. So this is the first stage in the process, so the police can come back. So at this point in time, we're just putting this out on for exhibition, and we're still going to declare it at a later meeting. So the police will get consulted, and if they've got issues in relation to the way that we set up the alcohol-free zone, will at council's discretion at the next meeting can comply with what they have requested.
So has this been universally applied, or is it just, as a DA comes up with looking at it? So.
In relation to the exemption or the amending of the alcohol-free zone?
Well, so has this been applied to any other hotel or motel?
The alcohol-free zone only relates to the public footpath. It's got no control past the boundary. Obviously, this al fresco dining, they want to use the footpath, so I couldn't answer that question in relation to the Tumut alcohol-free zone, but I can take that on notice and report it back at the when we look at adopting this in later meetings.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand you're having it in parks and things, but I mean, it seems to be, we're just over-legislating on a lot of things. I just wonder whether this is another example of it,
It's commonly or constantly used by the police as it's a really good tool for getting people to move on, to empty out open containers. It's been a really, really good tool since it's been introduced. And just for council's information, it did apply to the Creekscape area, and at the last 4 years ago when we looked at this, they actually excluded that area, and we haven't had a great deal of issues down there. We've got, in relation to drinking, there's been some vandalism issues, but so we're looking with this re-declaration not to, or re-establishing not to include that area, because it's been working well and allows people, families, to have barbecue and alcohol down at the park.
Mr Mayor, if I could, this is a policy matter, could we have the exclusion zone at Batlow checked to see that we haven't got no alcohol past the hotel, and this is reflected that people aren't complying, or that we need to adjust what we've done?
I think we need a universal standard. You can't apply an instrument to one premises and not the other 20 in the shire. It seems odd to me.
It was Mayor, there was a horror place before they put the alcohol-free zones along the footpath there.
It's made a big difference.
It made a big difference. It wasn't a good place to be, and you know, Tumut had a bad reputation at one stage, and this has cleaned it up a lot. It made the police a lot easier job for them.
Right, done.
Through the chair will follow that up as
Follow
an
that.
operational matter. Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll move back out of committee. Thank you,
There was a
Councillor.
line there for Westboro.
Councillor Whistleman. All in favour? Okay, now I've got a motion. Got a move in a second with that. Yes. Okay. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Moving on. Last drinks. Planning proposal for Tumut LEP 2012 amendment number 5, Gilmore Industrial Land.
Move the motion.
Moving the recommendation. Seconder. Councillor Larda. Councillor Isselman.
I accept the report as is. Move it as is.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Been over this a few times. Put the motion. All in favour? Is this a planning? No? Planning? Yep. So call a division.
Oh, excuse me.
All in favour? It's unanimous. Okay. Committee meetings. Minutes of the committee meetings. Council accept the minutes of the Aboriginal Liaison Committee held on the Wednesday the 9th of May and adopt their terms of reference.
Second.
Once you move it,
I'll move it.
Councillor Pritchard, Councillor Hand.
I just, with the terms of reference, it's hard that they've got I'd like to see the terms of reference without the modifications in it. I wasn't quite sure what was in and what was out.
What was in and what was out?
Does anyone else find that a bit confusing?
Through the chair, the
Lines through.
underlined is an addition,
Yes.
and line through, strike through is a removal. So if you take on page 5, as in page 106, electronically, or 103, there, the addition is the deputy chairperson shall be elected, etc.
Yeah, okay.
Understood?
Thank you.
M-
Happy to pass it.
If I may also note, if the committee wishes to go back and review those terms of reference, they can just place them back before council for acceptance of those. And Councillor Pritchard was talking about that earlier, so we may see this come back in the near future.
Anything further? Councillor Pritchard, would you like to close? No? Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. Sale Yards Committee.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Isselman. Councillor Benjamin. Any discussion? No?
So is that both or one?
Both. 3.
Three, all three, yes, all three.
Can I
All
just
three at once.
get some clarification on the diversion of the funds re the operation?
Sorry, which,
Council diverts the intended funds. How much is that, and what's it going towards now? So council's obviously funded the review of the sale yards operation, and now we're wanting to divert the funds to something else.
what's happening in the sale yards, I can explain it, that people are using the sale yards and not paying for them. So people are having, putting cattle in there to be collected by B double and taking them on beef or whatever, and they're not paying. So what the committee thought was, rather than do a review of the sale yards, they'd be better off spending money to capture the people using the yards and charge them for the use of them.
what was the intention of the review of the sale yards?
Mr. Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the basis of the throughput numbers that were going through, there was some fears that the expense of the sale yards, plus the risks that are present with regards to the yards not meeting environmental standards, that we should be looking at the operations of the sale yards, how we can improve them, how much would it cost to bring up to those improvements, or in the worst case scenario, have a look at closing the sale yards and what other options are available to the local landholders to get stock to market.
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, that the intention of that is completely different there. I mean, if you're wanting to capture the amount of cattle that aren't being used because they've been penned for holding, as opposed to on a sale. I mean, I presume that's when they're not holding sales, they're picking them up to go to Adelong or Wagga, are they?
Cooma, or off to a feedlot or something like that. Or there was a suggestion that there was a store sale that wasn't, no one was paid for.
So how much was put aside, Mr. Christensen, if you know?
There was no call of the quote yet, but we were estimating it would be about in the vicinity of $30,000 to $35,000. I don't believe that the measures to measure throughput would be $35,000.
Yeah. Can I just clarify though that given that there are some, I mean it's been an issue that's been ongoing since I was on the representative on the sale yards committee. There's always been environmental concerns from the EPA about that location. Given that probably leaves council in a precarious position without this report, how will that impact on us?
Through the Chair, if you wish, we could move item 1 and follow this with a more detailed report back to council next month.
I'd be happy with that if someone...
Mr Mayor, also, how can we guarantee that they're accurately capturing the throughput if the financial report of April 2018 states they couldn't accurately capture the throughput?
Because people are using the yard, you can't lock the yards, and people are using the yards.
But if they couldn't do it accurately in April, how can they now do it?
They'd be using CCTV.
That's fine.
Mr. Christensen.
If I can provide a little bit of explanation, at the moment it's an honesty system. So there's a mailbox there with a book, and you fill out the book with how many heads you're putting through the sale yards, and then council charges and invoices. So anecdotally, the committee has advised that is being abused at the moment, and people aren't being honest with their usage of the yards, with the exception of the ones that were obviously capturing it through the honesty system. So the intent of the recommendation of the sale yard committee was to put forward some infrastructure or a process where we could make sure that the honesty was kept, either through RFID readers as the stock goes through, they get read, and CCTV captures the license plate of the truck that's dropping off at the time. That's one suggestion.
Is there any way? What I'm getting to is there? Can you trace the cross-infection that occurs through strange cattle going in there and being taken out without your knowledge? Say some cattle have been through and rolled up somewhere else with some disease. They want to track them back to how they've got there. If they've gone through Tumut yards, what other cattle have gone through Tumut yards at that same time, and what cross-infection can occur? And also the same question arises about biosecurity. If some weeds turn up in one property after where did they come from? I mean, I would have thought that we'd have to know the name tags of every beast that went through that place, and
Councillor Pritchard, can we just move into committee, I think?
Sorry.
I'm happy to do
Yeah, and secondly? Yeah, all in favour? Can I answer that question? Each beast that goes through should have either in their right ear or in their room an NLIS button tag, which can be scanned and tracked, so they should know where they are at all stages. Once again, it relies on honesty because they can be cut out of the ear, not so easy out of the rumen, but very few people are using rumen, I think. So they're there, and also people fill out either electronically an NVD a declaration or in a book. So they should be all there in the box too, shouldn't they, Mr. Christensen? And people just aren't. People are cheating the system, basically.
Yeah.
But you're right with the biosecurity. There's certainly that's the idea of the NLIS system.
So how many sales are there a year?
The circuit sales have finished. They were every 2 weeks, but it's basically just store sales. And I think the last one was in April.
April, yeah, it was.
And so what's the cost to the community?
So operationally, it's around $15,000 a year in maintenance and operations. It is a quasi-business unit, so the funds raised from sales go into the maintenance of it. So it's around even at the moment.
It's usually been self-funded. But the problem is if you don't have it, you can't send B doubles out to small farmers. You need just a staging position. And also those store sales are a couple of $1 million every time. Now if you don't have them there, they'll be in Yass or in Wagga or Kundagai or somewhere where it's a pretty big business.
That's all the more reason for them to be honest with us, isn't it? Really, I mean, we should be really making sure that maybe the RF tags are recorded somehow as they come on, and then we know how many have come through and who's there, and we're covered.
So is there any scope for or appetite for using the Gilmore estate as a new site?
Yeah.
There is. You would be up for significant cost, more so than if you were to bring up the current yards to the current standards. So we are at the moment with the current yards riding on a grandfather provision for all intents and purposes. If you were to build a new facility, you would need to build it to current standards.
How's it rated environmentally, the yards there, right? Where they are?
Poor.
So we're probably at risk there.
And then we have undertaken some improvements through the chair with regards to our manure collection. However, the current standards would require the yards to be fully covered, so no rain or overland flow coming through. And currently they are open.
Yes, have got a good new set. Carcool have got a good set.
We're on this kind of river.
Would that attract more use of the premises, of the sale yards, if it was relocated?
Chair, I'm of the opinion no. Wagga has a major sales, and a lot of sales are directed there. With the current market, they are yielding very good prices.
And also, so many beasts are sold on auctions.
Auction plus.
Yeah, and that's just growing.
So it's really mostly used as a transit hub by the sound of it. They bring in small trucks so the big others can take around.
And the occasional store sale.
So if it's only been used as a transit hub predominantly, is there any reason why we'd have to comply with that same legislation if we weren't selling them through there? If we had the Gilmore, just theoretically, estate, and we just had a paddock that was well presented as a drop-off, given the fact that that will be now a truck hub?
Yes, the same provisions would apply. You may modify depending on the approach you use. You may only use it as a holding yards, and that would change the way that you would design the yards. However, you would still have to comply with legislation and have it covered fully.
So when you say covered, like how much of it has to be covered?
100%.
Of just the loading bit, or everywhere you've got a cow?
Of the storage pens and the loading. It is to ensure
Who comes up with this rubbish?
Stop them allowing put cows in all over the
It is to ensure that all manure that is generated is maintained within that closed area, so any rainfall or overland flow path.
On an industrial farm estate?
It does come down to a biosecurity map. The flow.
No wonder we're going backwards in this country. There you go.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, I think it's about time to move out of.
just one last question. What happens to people who are being dishonest at these yards if they are caught?
Mr. Christensen.
Through the chair, the process would be, if we were to install CCTV, for an example, we would on-board an invoice to the trucking company for use of it. They are, for all intents and purposes, using the facility. We would send the invoice to them. We may even encourage the council to adopt a penalty fee for not.
So we don't have one at the moment?
No, we don't.
Just to put it into perspective though, the use of the yards is $1.87 a beast or something? Yeah. So it's not a
Do
lot.
we invoice all the other people who use the yards?
It's an honesty system. They send us how many do they use when they use it.
It's not very honest.
Maybe we should make it free like the pools.
Sounds like we should build the cows a drive-through.
Who's moving that we move?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Hand. Seconder. Councillor Risselman, all in favour? Can I make a suggestion, if it's okay with the move and the seconder, that we put 1 and 2 as recommendations. We put those to the vote, and that we leave 3 for the moment until the report comes back.
Thank you.
Councillor Benjamin, you okay with that?
Yes. Thank you.
In between Isselman and Benjamin, between 1 and 2. Just Isselman and Benjamin. Yep.
Okay. Councillor Usselman,
Thank you.
nothing more?
Finished.
Put the recommendation 1 and 2. All in favour? Carried. Say hello. Minutes of the Tumberfest Annual General Meeting, 2nd of May.
I'd like to move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Councillor Wright, seconder. Thank you. Councillor Ham.
This is the first time I've been involved on the Tumberfest committee, and it's just been a real honour to work with the committee, which is just amazing. You know, so dedicated and so focused on providing an excellent 2-day event, which it was this year. I think you can see in the very extensive annual report, you know, the amount of work and research and sponsorship and main stage events that went into it all. And it really is just a really great example of how a volunteer committee can really achieve wonderful things. I think this is its 22nd year. So, and the coordinator this year was a lady called Natasha McQueen, and she did an excellent job stepping up from the year before when the coordinator wasn't very good, and Tash actually picked up the pieces from that year, and that's where she became this coordinator this year. But it was really a great event. I don't think anyone who attended would have done it.
Thank you. Councillor Cross?
I totally agree with what Councillor Hayes says. There is one thing that I think we need to really address, and that's about first aid. That I noticed in here the SES were asked to provide first aid, but there was a miscommunication. This also happened at the Festival of the Falling Leaf, leaving people who were injured or bitten by wasps unable to get treatment. And I think that if we're going to put on events, or committees are going to put on events like this, they need to have a first aid, dedicated first aid plan that we know about and approve of, because otherwise it puts us and the community at huge risk. There's no facilities at all for example, if someone had a fall or a heart attack, whatever. So I would really like to see all committees put that forward.
Thank you. Councillor?
I'd like to endorse what Councillor Ham said. You know, like, it's a great facility for Tumut Room, great event. You know, I'm involved with one or two organisations that work there, and it's a fantastic event for us. You know,
and I'd agree with you, and the creekscape looked absolutely fantastic. It's a perfect venue, so you're very lucky. Okay.
Just one question, please, Mr. Mayor. When we look at the financial report Appendix D on page 168 of electronic, page 165 paper, there are a number of expenditure items that seem to be repetitious. They have hire of equipment and then stage hire and toilet hire and fencing hire and storage shed and such like. There seems to be a repetition of the things that are actually listed in this financial report. And I'm just wondering whether or not it's an accurate financial report in representing the finances of this particular festival. It's quite confusing in seeing printing and digital. It's quite confusing to see just various different things that are there that seem to be, you know, repetitive of things. I'm not sure if as a financial report it's as clear as it should be or as accurate as it should be. So I'm just raising the question.
Can I speak? So say we're looking at printing, the final is 1,185.14 cents, and the budget was 1,500.
I'm just looking at the. I'm not looking at the actual amounts. I'm looking at the repetition of the actual entries.
I can't see the concern.
Wine stalls and bar sales.
Prints,
as income.
Yeah.
It just seems to be.
Print media, probably.
I can't see the repetition you're talking about.
No, I can't either.
Maybe you can look at that later.
Talk to it later. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the recommendation there. Anything further? Put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Minutes of the Batlow Development League. Councillor Smith?
Yes.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, I just have to go back.
Councillor Benjamin.
Back to that. Item number 2, investigate extending RV access to Batlow Showground to include new toilet facilities. That was talked about on our councillor tour the other day. I'm wondering if anything has happened in regard to that.
I believe it's been granted. I believe there's a press release out today.
Thank you. Also, number 3, to note Batlow Development League's full endorsement of the proposals relating to Batlow in the DNP and recommends they remain as stated in the final plan. and some additions to the DMP, are they able to be included as feedback on the DMP through this means, or does there need to be?
I think they would write a proposal to the within the 28 days. Would that be correct?
Through the chair, it would be preferable they put a particular submission in as per council standard process. Otherwise, we can make sure this gets in.
Yeah, if it can be done through the minutes of the meeting, that would be appreciated.
We'll make an undertaking to lodge this as a formal request on their behalf.
Thank you.
Okay. Put the motion. All in favour? Carried. That brings us to the end of the ordinary business paper. Someone move that we go into confidential. Councillor Isselman, Councillor Ham, all in favour? Thank you. that concludes our confidential. Mr. General Manager, would you like to report on confidential first? Move in a second. Is it about a confidential? Marta, isn't it? All in favour?
Through the Chair, Council's made a resolution in confidential about 4 matters, and they are in relation to the Brindabella Valley Road survey and design works. The Council accept the tender from Maloney Solutions for the survey and design of Brindabella Road upgrade between Brindabella Valley Road and the New South Wales ACT border, being for the sum and amount of $194,700 including GST. That Council authorise the General Manager to enter into a contract with Maloney Solutions, and the Council advise the unsuccessful tenderers in writing. In regards to the matter about the Kaboona Gap slope remediation, the Council endorsed the decision of the General Manager to accept the tender of Specialised Geo for the remediation of 3 slopes located on Kaboona Gap on the Jinjallik to Gilmore Creek Road, MR 85, being for the lump sum amount of $553,107.50, including GST. That Council endorsed the decision by the General Manager to enter into a contract with Specialised Geo, and the Council advised the unsuccessful tenderers in writing. In relation to the matter about the Tumberfest Committee meeting, the Council that the minutes of the Tumberfest Committee meeting held on the 2nd of May 2018 will be received and noted.
Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.